Oseo.
Oseo.
Cherokee greeting. Wave the great feather for the good of it. Tataka, Yarasa, Buffalo. That's the theme I'm starting out with. I'm starting out right off with this article. It's from the Washington Post by Jess McHugh, dated July 13th, 2022. Once nearly extinct, bison are now climate heroes, and I add, and spirit as a natural attractor. Miles of prairie stretched out across the Wichita Mountains Wildlife Refuge in southern Oklahoma. Acre after acre of brush, grasses, and hardy vegetation creeping toward the low range granite mountains rising in the distance. Like much of Oklahoma, it's flat here, and the speed limit is 30 miles an hour, and that's because of the buffalo. They appeared out of nowhere, dozens of massive animals lumbering up to the shoulder of the road to cross to the fresh vegetation on the other side. They moved slowly, their soft bovine eyes barely registering these stopped cars waiting for them. They quickly set to work mowing down the fresh springtime grass. The bison's quiet munching does more than nourish their bodies. It's one of many things they do to nurture their entire ecosystem, one that is increasingly under the threat from climate change. Grazing bison, shaving down acres of vegetation, leave more than dung behind. Their aggressive chewing spurs growth of nutritious new plant shoots, and their natural behaviors, the microhabitats they create by rolling in the ground, the many birds that forage, symbiotic relationships with them. Once bordering on extinction, the bison now serve as a great provider for their ecosystems, standing as an example of the ways in which animal conservation and ecological protection can work together. Buffalo is the original climate regulator, says Troy Heinart, the member of the Rosebud Lakota, executive director of the Intertribal Buffalo Council. It's a coalition working to restore the buffalo on First Nations lands. Just by how they use the grass, how they graze, how their hooves are designed, the way they move. They did this job for us when we allowed them to be buffalo. Native Americans are leading the effort to bring back the buffalo, which in turn allows for the return of other native grasses, animals, and insects, which all help to fight the climate change. Bison, called buffalo by Native American peoples, are mammoth creatures weighing up to 2,000 pounds. They are the largest mammals in North America. Their great horned heads balance on hulking, sloped shoulders. This massive upper body sits on spindly goat-like legs, lending them an otherworldly quality, more minotaur than moose. Despite their size, they have a gracefulness to them. 2 centuries ago, they dominated much of the continent from Canada to Mexico. They were so numerous that the pounding of their hooves, beating across the land, sounded like rolling thunder. Crazy Horse, who swept through the hearts of Native America, said, "I hear the growing thunder of their hooves behind me." For many First Nations, like the Lakota and the Arapaho, buffalo is a sacred animal and spirit that nourishes their people and plays an important part in ceremony. The estimated number of bison nationwide now, far from the millions that once was, now hovers around the low hundreds of thousands. Native American people have been integral to this effort from the start. both by managing herds and introducing legislation to protect and expand bison territory. The Intertribal Council, which began as a modest coalition of only 10 First Nations in the 1990s, will now soon count to 76 First Nations across 20 states, managing a total of 20,000 bison across 32 million acres. The return of the bison is a victory not only for the sake of biodiversity, but for the entire ecosystem in which they live. As a keystone species, the bison sustain their environment from the top down. They move through, graze everything down. The fresh green grass draws other animals that would feed on it, elk and deer and whatever other kind of grazers. The herd in Oklahoma is about 625 animals, and when large herds move across the land, they create a green wave. Their vigorous grazing stimulates plant growth, creating a flood of new vegetation that follows in their wake to be served by other animals. These green waves are so dramatic, some of them can be seen from outer space. The southern plains are especially vulnerable to climate change, where we have periods of extreme drought and flooding, and they've become more frequent in recent years. So there's an example of how the bison can serve a crucial role in the imperiled environment. Their hoofs push seeds deep into the ground and aerate the soil. Small birds fly around the bison's ankles because their heavy footfalls kicks up insects that the birds can feed on. The brown-headed cowbird often rides on the back of the buffalo, plucking parasites off its skin. Even the bison's dung contains high level of nitrogen, a vital nutrient for plant growth. Their wallows, huge depressions created by the bisons rolling on the ground, serve as microhabitats for other animals. There rains, you have insects and frogs and all kinds of things. There are other challenges too, and that is the Indian Buffalo Management Act. It's a piece of legislation that would guarantee resources for tribal herd management. It's been introduced, but so far it has stalled in the Senate after passing the House of Representatives. But people are hopeful that the bill will eventually become law. The buffalo, much like the eagle and the wild mustang, are one of those potent spirits of Turtle Island and of the American culture that contains multitudes of meaning. For us, they are a giver of life, a cherished member of the community. As we look to the future, any assistance or effort that Native Americans are making to restore buffalo back to their lands is going to be beneficial for everybody, because it is a climate-smart, holistic idea of the relationship with nature. Aho. So that gives me a start for all this, because that's what I'm celebrating in this way, is the return of the buffalo, as they say. The buffalo are coming back at last there. And all that I have here on my display, is to make that celebration. And when you look up here to my piece up here, this is meant by me to illustrate the ancestral buffalo with the large horns, the way that I've been able to portray it. The red coming down from his mouth. When the cow gives birth to her calf, she somehow emits from her mouth this red kind of filmy, silky substance in which he coats the calf with. And evidently this has also given the impression to observers that the calves themselves are born red, but it's probably this red film that's coated over them. So that's what I'm illustrating there. Other things that I have here in the display, speaking of the calf, you go over here to that picture there of a buffalo calf, and that you see there's a thistle there. So it's a very neat photograph. Whoever arranged this knew what he was doing. The thistle itself is called tokahu. That's the thistle. So it produces, the phrase, hey takohe kite, he'll be the first one. And so that, in other phrases, also means, first or leader. It's like that. So down below it you see this unique picture. It's a photograph I found somewhere. I don't know who took it. I don't think it was Edward Curtis. But you can see what that is there. This man with his head, to the buffalo, and his hand like that is actually, it gives the word, ipatkan. Ipatkan means, with the outstretched hand that way, to feel by touching. To feel by touching. And then of course the gesture that you have here between the two is shante kiyuska, meaning a mutual affection, like that, love, affection, regard, like that. And that I had explained last week, that is an old usage for feeling. So that's very significant to have this picture of actually the relationship of Native American for the buffalo. When I come over here to this piece here, you have the man upholding the skull of the buffalo and a picture, an artist's rendering of the same thing. This is called yuan call, to raise up, to lift up, to raise up, as a prayerful gesture, to pray in that way. And over here next to it, this is a sacred bundle of sage, and with the down feather on the top. And what this symbolizes is, the ichglaska, to purify. So to use it for smudging, everybody knows what smudging is, but there's more to it than simply, just lighting it and smudging it. This is really, in the way I'm portraying it here, a symbol that stands for a cleansing, first of all, and then a purification, secondly, and thirdly, a refinement. So this is a kind of process that is culturally understood here. So it's more than just lighting incense and waving it around. Here, it's actually here a symbol of that kind of sublimation for people who are in or of this shield piece here is my shield cover for the good red road. And while you're looking at that, I'll put this with it. Red road, it's peace defying, it holds no violence. That's why I follow it in silence. It is the red road. Peace and harmony is what it shows. Chung kuluta, some might say. Strong and bold is how you play. Look into yourself. That's how you find it. Do good for people. Don't let the bad blind it. Look into Wakinyan's eyes. Walk with his pride. You'll find your spot when you take flight at the end. And that was written by Catlin in the 10th grade, published in Lakota Whispers at the Pine Ridge reservation of South Dakota. I gotta go down with this. Here I have the buffalo horn with sage. This is also white sage here, as showing like an offering, like that. In the aspergill, this would be filled with water, but in this instance, I'm showing this, the buffalo skull I have, I put the white sage in it. And up here, you can see this picture here. About sometime in the 1960s, I was told by my Cherokee mentor that a small herd of what's called wood or mountain buffalo were discovered in Canada, about 200 I think. And since then, of course, the government of Canada has taken custody of them and to protect them. So they are also part of what evolved out of the ancient longhorn buffalo. And they're similar to the plains buffalo, but they are a little bit different. And so that's what this picture is. I think their legs are a little different or something for the terrain they live in. Slightly different than the plains buffalo. And here I have this plains buffalo model with the clump of actual buffalo hair on it. And here in front of it, this is to replicate and stand for the water hole on the prairie. I'll talk about that in another time. Mini espala, meaning that the water hole on the prairie. And down here, this is a folk piece. I don't exactly remember who made it. And right here below it, this is actually a pelt of buffalo hair given to me by Vivian Olds in Nevada. So you can see all of that. And my interest in showing, the relationship and reverence of Native Americans towards, our spirits, our helping, guiding, advising, lasting forever spirits is here. I have this shield piece, that illustrates this gesture in Cherokee supplicating to Gadunlati. I think I looked at everybody there. And again, we're still in the time of the white buffalo constellation. Here I have a poem. I read a couple from this poet. The Drum That Beats Within Us, poems by Mike Bond. This was originally published by City Lights Bookstore in San Francisco by Lawrence Ferlinghetti, which Mike Bond gives, gratitude to Ferlinghetti and Gary Snyder, among others. So this is the poem, title of the book as well, The Drum That Beats Within Us. The drum that beats within us is primitive as stone, the song of one who fears not death, not years alone, who seeks the silent hoofbeats within the ancient glade, and hunts the sorrowed buffalo beneath the laurel's shade. The drum that beats within us outlasts all sense of time, and limbers to no earthly tune, no transitory time. The politic is not its dead, nor earning, nor the wise. It abides, not reason, nor in dimension lies. In the lodgepole canyons, before the day's alive, you hear it in the flicker, the creek stone and the hive. You know it in the winter wind that licks about its boughs and sifts the gift of years in bones the forest floor allows. The drum that beats within us is steady as the bear who, sleepless, guards the whirling skies around his northern lair. Although we cannot see him in the glitter of the day, we know that he is visible once light is swept away. And when the buck has bounded from his needled mountain bed, his footfall echoes through the pine long after he has fled. So does the drum beat after us, although we travel past. The touch of every star in space, the wish a wish might last. We'll bring that in here at this time, and to save for my feature piece, back up to my shield there. So when you're focused on that shield, and this to me, I created this is meaning the ancestors, the buffalo ancestor, the great buffalo. So this piece, goes with this, and following especially the article that I read as the return of the bison or the buffalo. The sun will descend, everybody will arise. Stretch out your hands, earth trembles. I'm coming into sight. I bring whirlwind with me, so you will know one another. Wind stirs the grasses, stirs the willows. Fog, fog, lightning, lightning, whirlwind, whirlwind. Rocks are ringing. They're ringing in the mountains. There's dust from the whirlwind. Yo-ho, yo-ho, yo-ho. All that grows on earth is mine. Yo-ho-ho. The whole world is coming. A nation is coming. A nation is coming. Eagle has brought the message to us. Over the whole earth they are coming. A nation, the buffalo are coming. Eagle bears the message. The spirit troop is approaching. The world is moving onward. See, everyone is standing, watching. Let us all praise. The spirit host is approaching, advancing. They're coming with the buffalo. They're coming with the new earth. Yo-ho, yo-ho, yo-ho. That wind shakes my teepee, and sings a song for me, Yo-ho-ho, yo-ho-ho. Thank you. This is the song that the wind is singing through the teepee. The people, these buffalo toes, are laced to the teepee flaps. So when the wind blows, you hear the song of the buffalo. Aho. Thank you.